a woman's perspective on women doing business, the challenges they face, and the change they want to bring. Over to you, Kaveri. Please take it forward.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure for me to welcome all of you wonderful women to yet another edition of Tiffin Talks. This is the Kashmir Dialogues. This is my way of contributing to my state, and I think nothing better than talking to some wonderful women from the state, from Srinagar, from Jammu, one even from Dharamsala, which is not our state, but it's okay. It's pretty similar to us. I'd like to welcome all of you. There's Asma Wali from POASH, which is a network for women entrepreneurs, which ranges from designers to photographers to artists. There's Sakshi Berry from Jammu. She does calligraphy on wedding cards, candle art, coat frames, very interesting and very innovative. There's Kurataleen Masoodi. She runs ASH, the Hope of Kashmir. It's not just for mental health, and the rehabilitation of those suffering from mental illness, which is, as you know, one of the biggest problems in India today, not just in Kashmir. But she also runs stitching centers for needy women, which is, I think, an excellent initiative. There's Aarti Mahajan Dhingra, who runs a fitness studio and looks pretty fit herself. And Jigyasa Labru, who's a spoken word poet. We're going to hear from her. She's going to, I think, recite some poetry as well. And she's really understood the transformative power of educational innovations. So all of you ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Asma, may I start with you right away and ask about this network that you've started? I'm very curious about it, and how did you come upon it? Why did you feel the need to start? Really understood the transformative power of education and innovation.
First of all, Kaveri, I'm really thankful to you for considering me as a part of this panel, because the topic is very close to my heart, as I'm working on it, and my research is also on the same subject. So, as you asked me about my journey, it was just a thought that I just wanted to start something. I really, so far as if we'll talk about later on, then challenges, I think the biggest challenge for every female, even for a male, but for being an entrepreneur, is that realization of own thought.
Right.
Thought is a very powerful thing. It's so, at some point of time, it's so automatic and so strong that we realize all of a sudden that this is what I'm meant for to be. So realization of that thought was very important for my startup. And I'm very much thankful to God that that realization came to me. And it then, when I started it, it was not meant for to be only women. There was nothing like that. But working with women, I realized that working with women is little different than working with both the genders. When women work with each other, they are a little more cohesive towards each other, towards the work. They share the same ideology. And then it just happened that it sort of started being just women oriented, and I started realizing that there was no such platform for women entrepreneurs who were already started, and even budding entrepreneurs, they were just looking for up something, some platform which will provide them that stage. They can prove themselves, they can show their abilities, they can show their talent. And then POASH started. It was just started with 13 entrepreneurs, and they were most of them online resellers. And then with the help of God and with so much hard work because of my team efforts, we then got into fourth event, and it was like 223 entrepreneurs.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was really nice.
Right.
In that
Asma, quickly, I want you to elaborate on some of the challenges, because we know that online is a huge business, but you also have had so much trouble with bandwidth and with the internet issues. So how did you keep everyone's spirits up during this very, very difficult time?
See, if we will talk about challenges are everywhere same regarding women entrepreneurs, or regarding even if we'll talk about the project perspective entrepreneurship, it's same. But being a Kashmiri, it's little difficult because we are in a conflict zone. It's little more than that. Challenges, the first challenge was like getting motivated.
Hmm.
I was just analyzing the women who had started their startups, what motivated them actually. It was different reasons, like they want to be their own boss, they want to be self-sufficient. But one thing, another strange thing I found, what was the main source of motivation behind so many women? It was the already successful women entrepreneurs who were doing well.
Right.
They were acting as a role model for them. So that was one of the thing which we need to realize, which we need to visualize, that yes, this exists, and we should give them more support to already existing entrepreneurs so that they can later on motivate others to follow. The biggest challenge, that is the access to capital,
Yeah.
because a lot of women, they don't start with lot of capital, they don't of their own, they don't start with lot of money of their own, they need capital. If we talk about India, no doubt lot of many women are going towards entrepreneurship. But currently the data is like 58.8% of entrepreneurship. Out of that, only 14% is women entrepreneur.
Right.
So it's very less, it's very small. But and if we'll talk about this 14%, you can see that these include all those businesses which have started by women of their own. It doesn't include many businesses where we need a lot of fund.
Right.
There is no funding opportunities specific to the women. That is one of the main challenge which women face. And funding at a particular time, at a right time, and in a right way, that is the main important thing. I'm emphasizing at the right time, because when they apply for the fund and by the time it gets granted, it's too late.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so right time is very important.
Kurit, I'd like to bring you in here and
Yeah, sure.
talk about the work that you're doing, because it's both social activism as well
Yeah,
as entrepreneurship, which is a very interesting
absolutely.
model. And tell me how you came upon this model. And I think it really is the kind of model that you need to replicate elsewhere as well.
Yeah. So actually, Kaveri, my story is a bit, it's very close to my heart, and it's my passion actually. Like I started with social activism.
Hmm.
Basically, I started in year 2011 when I just finished my engineering, and my brain was still telling me that no, this is not what you have to do.
Hmm.
And then I thought of something, and I used to visit these orphanages, and I wanted to do something for them, because if you see orphanages in Kashmir, I mean, you go to these places, the infrastructure is really bad. I mean, you have one room that then you have 40 or 30 children in just one room, and it's like really, heart wrenching and heartbreaking. And I realized that these children were suffering from mental trauma, and they had separation anxiety, and they were mentally not well. I could see that on their faces. And then I started a research with Department of Psychiatry, where we did a research on mental health of these children who are living in orphanages, because like previous to 2011, I mean, before that nobody was pointing a finger towards orphanages, because it was considered to be very, in our religion also, orphans and orphanages, they're considered to be very, pious places and whatnot. So when I went there, I realized that things are not the way they should be. And I remember going to an orphanage, since I was doing a research along with Department of Psychiatry at that point of time. Dr. Margoov was HOD Psychiatry, and we were doing a project with so many psychiatrists and me as a social worker. So I started going to these orphanages, and we found out that children were really stressed out. And then I went to an orphanage where there was things I could easily find out that there's something fishy going on.
Hmm.
And one day when I visited there, and I had this mini kid, a questionnaire that these children were I was supposed to fill. I was supposed to question these children. And I found out, when I went there, the children, they were going through a punishment.
Oh.
And I started a child I saw a child who was bleeding terribly. And I tried to find out, like, what is it, because everybody, all the children, they were punished at that point of time. There was a punishment going on. And one child, he was bleeding. His arm was bleeding. And I realized, and I asked them, and I saw that this man, the orphanage owner, he was pinning, in fact, the stapler, He was spinning these children, their flesh he was
That's good.
spinning. So I straight away went to the police station. That is the first time I went to a police station, and I tried to file a complaint. And the SHO was not there. I mean, the police officer, the in charge, was not there. And then I had to do a lot of stuff. And then he started asking me questions that, that I will have to show him the registration and all and all. And that's how my journey started. And, thankfully, I got that orphanage closed down. For the first time in the history of Kashmir, an orphanage got closed down. And I did a sting operation where those children, in fact, I went to media. I remember going to ABP News, Asif Qureshi, and he told me that, I'll have to arrange a video where children are, saying this thing on camera. And I remember going to their school at 5 a.m., waiting there and, taking their pictures and taking their videos where they, where they agreed that they were tortured and where they actually spoke about their story. And then the orphanage got closed down. And then I started working. I mean, that project is still there. And then I started, appreciating, and I started advocating community-based rehabilitation, where, people are questioning me. Okay, fine, you're getting these orphanages closed down. I mean, what's the alternative? Like, where will we keep these children? But then the most of the children who were living in the orphanages, they were not, it's not that both their parents were dead. The mother was there. And then I started this project. In fact, my journey has been a chain. So the next step was that I kept these. I mean, I supported these children. I went for fundraising and whatnot, and I started, supporting these children. I started supporting their education at their respective places, and then. So that the mothers could not, they did not have to send their children to orphanages. I mean, that's how I started, and I started supporting their household. And then gradually I started supporting the widows.
Right.
So my, women empowerment is a very broad term. So
Right.
I started supporting. I always say that we do widow empowerment and orphan girl empowerment.
Right.
So we involved, then we started, with the chain of stitching centers, and then we got into, we started giving employment to these women who were who were sending these children to their children to orphanages. We started, giving work to them, and supporting them, and those orphan girls who were who were not in a situation to help their education, or they had no option but to go to orphanages. So we started supporting those children. And then also, Kaveri, you actually missed one point that we have been doing. We did 3 seasons of mass marriages.
Yes, of course. I
Yes.
forgot. Yes.
Yeah. So the first very first season was, we did 50 marriages of orphan girls and downtrodden, the underprivileged. So in that, in that case, what we did was we tried to target 3 things. Number one, there's a lot of festivities, involved in marriage, and a lot of money. It's a saying that in Kashmir, you earn all your life, and what do? Either you do, you spend it in your, children's marriage, or
Yeah.
you spend a lot of money on building a house. That's how it is in Kashmir. So yes, I tried to make sure that these women, I mean these girls, they don't have to give dowry. And also that, there's this wazwan, if you know, if you know about cuisine. So I made it sure, we had a get together where 50 girls were called, their families, I mean their mothers, and 2 members from the family, they were called, and the guy, plus their parents, they were there, and we had a, a beautiful ceremony the way it is in Kashmir. But then instead of wazwan, we just had biryani and kava and everything. So that's what we have been doing. And that's how I became an entrepreneur. I mean, owning these stitching centers where we are supporting these widows, and we're supporting these orphan girls, so that they can support themselves. So that's how, a social work, my my journey was like, first activism, then social work, and then it was I became an entrepreneur. And also I had to, since I had an engineering background, and then I realized that no, I'll have to have academically I'll have to be sound enough. And then I went for bachelor's of social work, and then masters of social work, and that's how my journey was, and that's how it is, what it is all about.
You're a very brave woman, Kurat. I think you've done a
Thank you.
lot of work
Thank you so much.
I think, a very young age. And really, congratulations. But
Thank you so much.
what is the market for these, for the products that come out of these stitching centers? How do you create the market?
How do we create the market? Actually, we have a lot of stores running over here. So what we did in COVID, we produced a lot of PPs. So we
Oh.
manufactured a lot of PPs.
Excellent.
Yes. So we gave, so we gave around more than 5,000 PPs. I think 4 to 5,000 PPs we gave away to all the hospitals that we donated, because we gave the money, our organization gave the money, and they did the work. And these girls, they got involved in stitching and all. And the rest, we are still, they're still available at a number of stores right now.
Oh,
So yes, there are people, there are people who welcome us, and who are like there, and who say that we would love to be a part of it. You can keep our product, your product, in our stores.
great.
So yes.
So it's also a matter of knowing what opportunities there are at that particular moment and exploiting those. So that's where your,
Right.
your engineering background and all your academics come in. Wonderful work.
Thank you.
Yasa, may I bring you in here now and ask a little about your experience and the innovation that you have created?
So I think my first coming face to face with questions of power and privilege happened when I actually became a fellow at Teach for India. So
Yes.
right out of college, I studied engineering as well. And right out of college, I joined something called the Teach for India Fellowship, and I taught in a low-income classroom for 2 years.
Where was this, Jigyasa?
This was in Delhi.
Okay.
Yes. And while I was teaching in my classroom, a realization that while I was growing up, I had so many experiences with the arts that empowered me. But the children that I worked with, who all came from the low-income community of Tughlakabad Extension, it seemed like everybody had decided two kinds of choices for them. The one kind of choice was security of employment, getting a job. And the second was being good at maybe academics. And there was no space for these children to think about passion, for these children to think about who they really are, or who they want to become. And which is when I brought art into my own classroom. So I brought spoken word poetry into my classroom. I brought music into my classroom, which were things that really empowered me as a child. And so that's sort of how Slam Out Loud started. It started in my own classroom and then spread to more classrooms and then spread to Delhi. And now we operate across 4 states in India and work with quite a lot of children. But the idea behind Slam Out Loud is, again, that children, no matter where they come from, should get opportunities to find their own voice and hence discover their own agency. Because I really believe that agency can really be a game changer in people being able to get out of the cycle of negative outcomes, especially children coming from disadvantaged communities. And that's essentially how Just Slam Out Loud began.
And what were the performance arenas that you had for such children? Where did they finally get to actually showcase their talent?
Yeah. So what we do is we use art forms like storytelling, theater, spoken word poetry, and even visual art to work with children who are aged about 10 to 17, again, coming from disadvantaged communities. And how we do this is, one, we place artists into classrooms. So we believe that like mentors and role models can be really, really transformational in children's lives. So we put artists who work with children in classrooms, and we work with the same children for about 5 years through our fellowship program for artists. And every year a new artist comes in the same classroom, works with the children through an art form. The second thing that we do then is we create products and assets. So like lesson plans, guidelines, through which we can train teachers or get communities or students themselves to get even an access to art-based learning. To give you a very quick comparison, even in a state like Delhi, which is very, very progressive in education, our ratio of art teachers to number of students is 1:1400, which means less than 20 hours of art-based education for children who study in public schools.
Right.
And somebody just once told me, which just stays in my head always, is that all of our lives in some way are difficult, and arts makes them little easier. And we take that away from children who might need it the most, who might need social emotional learning, which arts build the most, who might need spaces to find their own voice the most. And we take that away from them, and through our work we want to give that space back to the children.
Jigyasa, I think you have to quickly connect with both Kurat and Asma and do something similar in Kashmir.
Absolutely.
You must, because I think this is an opportunity for you three to network and do something substantial in schools there. I'm sure children out there need emotional and artistic healing more than anywhere else. So we will come to that in a second, but I'd like to now go to Aarti and Sakshi. Aarti, tell me a little about your journey and how you came to run this fitness studio.
Yeah. Hi, Kaveri. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so lucky to meet these wonderful women over here. So, well, I did my MBA in 2008 in finance and marketing, and I got placed in a very good company, and I was getting good, huge paycheck after every month. But somewhere I was not, very much happy or convinced with whatever was happening. So I kept asking myself, what exactly you want? In the end, we want our happiness from whatever we are doing. So I asked myself, what exactly you want? So at the first place, I wanted to leave my job. And at the second place, I wanted to do something of my own, where I can use my own creativity and I can, reach out beyond my even imagination. So I wanted to, explore. So then I quit my job, and then I came to Jammu back. I was in Jalandhar. So then I just somehow I was in the dilemma of what to do next. So at the same time, my dad and suggested me, okay, since we are working for fitness for men, like we had a male fitness center here, which is like very common everywhere in India. So why don't you come up with something different and, be more innovative? You have done MBA, so be more creative with this. So I was like, okay. So then I went out and researched the whole market, and then I realized there was no space, exclusive space for women in JNK, and in fact I find in whole India, because since we all are from conservative families, so women wanted their own space. They wanted a comfortable, exclusive space where they feel more secure and more comfortable while doing workout, because women feel very uncomfortable when there are men roaming around and working out in front of them. So then I came out with this idea to open up a exclusive space only for women, where we'll be training only women. So at that time, that was the very stupid idea among men out there, because I'm talking about 2009. So it's like around 12 years back, 11 and a half years back. So at that time, nobody ever, encouraged me for that. So they were like, you're going to, fail over it, so don't do it. So I said, okay, no matter what, I just want to give it a try. Zyada fail ho jayenge, it's okay. We'll try something else after that, but at least let me give it a shot. So then in 2009, I started, and you won't believe that I received tremendous response from women. Then I realized that I actually touched their heart. What exactly they wanted. So lots of women came, and they were very happy, very comfortable doing workout. So then I realized that women were not working on their health before that. Maybe the one factor was this also, that they were not getting their own space. So when I started this, lots of women came, and I trained them, and we get emotionally attached also to them. They share their own troubles. So yeah, and then I realized there are so many issues in their lives. They face so many things. They do so many things, and they don't even get credit out of it. So then I started encouraging them, and I have trained a lot of trainers also, and all are women. So I just try to empower more women to be more self-reliant and work for their own selves. And I don't think that we are lesser than anybody else. So we need just to realize our own strengths. That's it.
Great. I think that's something that will echo with all of us here. Sakshi, you tell me a little about your journey with Cali Berry. Very nicely named store.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Caliberry is something, it's my small venture, which I started by my own. It's actually, things not work the way we want always, right? So at my place, I always want to do something creative, but I choose some different career option. Like I went for my MBA, MBA in finance and marketing. Then I wanted to pursue with my PhD. I wanted to go for my career option in this lecturership, but something inside me was killing. I was sort of a person who always loved creativity. The artist in me was always saying, let's do something on art and anything like that. So and we are like in JNK, we have limited bubble of options, right? We have a mantra: you graduate, you grow up, you graduate, find a good decent job. So this was all I also did. I also started working in a bank and all, but I wasn't happy. I wanted to do something on my own. So I started up with I took a calligraphy session. I learned calligraphy, and I saw there was no one doing in JNK. Then with calligraphy, I started working on some other things because I believed learning never stops. So with calligraphy, I started learning many other art forms, mandala art, then resin art, the canvas art.
Some of that behind you, right?
Pardon, ma'am?
Is that some of the work behind you is yours?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
All mine work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I started working on some artistic things, and not only one. I did not stretch to one thing, but many other different forms of art. And so on. Then came up with the COVID thing, and with my this PhD, I was sitting idle at home, and I thought, I was at idle, let's learn something new. So I worked on mask making. So
okay.
yeah, and I started the initial with making masks for myself, but later I realized I saw some needy ones, the vulnerable people. They did not have masks, and thought, why not distribute or donate them? So started making masks for them, and luckily I could raise that much fund that I could have. I have distributed around 500 masks and had sold 1,000 masks, not only in India but out of India. And the mask which I made, it's also a journey of some social work. Like I hired a tailor and he was in need. So he got employment from me, and the needy gets the mask. And I could launch Make in India and a series of Namaste from India, where I collaborated with different artists of India who were good in their art forms, different art forms. Like if we say Kashmir, so Ari work is there. If we come in Dogri, there is a Gota work. If we go to Punjab, there is.
Could we see some examples of this, Sakshi? Do you have them lying around?
No, right now I haven't. But yeah, I can show. I could have shown you. Wait, I'll show you some marks.
Okay.
Just a second.
So yeah, while we're waiting for Sakshi, Kurit, it's so interesting that all of you have managed to find. You've turned adversity into opportunity. I think that's quite wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it is wonderful. Undoubtedly, as you said, there were and there have been a lot of difficulties, especially in Kashmir. It is not easy to work. Number one, there is a gender bias. Number two, the situation is such that, you literally have to fight for, things.
For your life.
For your life, absolutely. I mean, I remember as you rightly said this, for life. I remember this when I got this orphanage closed down. I was threatened, and I remember SSP Kashmir calling me SSP security calling me from Delhi and telling me that, things are not good on ground. So you better, send me an application. But then, at that point of time, I said, no matter what, I'll have to live. I can't just be roaming around with security and doing social work. That's practically not possible. And I said, no, I don't want any. So yes, in Kashmir, it is not easy to work. I mean, especially a woman. I mean, we have to think 100 times. I mean, if not being an entrepreneur, I mean, I can tell you, being a social worker or an activist, I mean, it's very difficult to.
So, what gave you courage, Kurat? How did you? Was it just the family was supportive? You yourself were determined. What were the sources of courage?
Kaveri, to be very honest, like I mean, I'm just speaking my heart out. I mean, family. I mean, I come from a Kashmiri family, and you know how Indian families are. I mean, the same orthodox, set of protocols. I mean, that's how it is everywhere. I can't just say, I can't just blame Kashmir. I mean, it's everywhere. Yes, there was a lot of opposition, there was a lot of resistance, but then, I just love this quote: where there is will, there's a way. So, I at that point of time, I put my foot down, because I come from a family where, you can just find doctors, academicians, and people like that, professions like that. You'll only find those professions, and social work especially. I mean, trust me, my family, I mean, 10 years, 9 years back, my family, they were not quite aware of like what social work is, because people would generally ask me, when they would ask me, okay, what do you do? And I would be like, I'm a social worker. And they would be like, no, what else do you do? So no, you're a social worker, but what else? I'm like, I am a full-time social worker. So I would, it would be so difficult for me at that point of time to make people understand that even social work, it's a full-fledged, profession, and you can be a social worker. It was very difficult, and my family was not ready for it. And yeah, that's what I said. I mean, I already said, I put my foot down and I told my family, this is what I want to be.
Right. I see Jigyasa smiling a lot, and I think
so
he's obviously
yeah, both pyar, and that's how it is.
Yeah, I think
had the same struggle.
Yeah, Jigyasa, obviously your struggle in some way echoes Kurat's, because I'm sure when you told people that you're a spoken word poet, they must have said, "But what else do you do?"
So actually, so being a spoken word poet is still something that happens comparatively on the side. Like so Slam Out Loud is a non-profit organization, and that is something that I run full time. And I'm asked almost the same question every time. So I tell people I work at a non-profit. I co-founded a non-profit, and they're like, okay, but what do you do?
For your living?
Like, that's what I do. But then where does the money come from? I get a salary, and they're like, what? So yeah, that just
but really, Asma, may I bring you in here? And that whole notion, as a Kashmiri who's lived mostly outside the state as well, I think our first preference is always for government jobs and security, and that's sort of ingrained in our minds and in our families, no matter how progressive they are. Business, entrepreneurship, it's not something that we tend to do, so how did you break through that barrier, and how did the women who work with you manage to convince people around them that no, a job is not the only thing that is out there?
Kaveri, you are 100% right in this, that in Kashmir we have this stereotype that job is a very secure thing, whatever you have, especially government jobs.
Oh, yes.
Actually, in order to motivate other women, I was myself in a job. I have left 2 jobs. I was working as probationary officer in J&K Bank, and then I was working as an assistant professor in Management Institute. I left those jobs, but when people listen, okay, you have left, but how come? So it was little difficult, but I believe personally that in Kashmir we have a good rate of unemployment, and it's somewhere a blessing towards entrepreneurship. that's the one reason that is forcing women to go towards, because unemployment is there, they are not able to find proper jobs. That is the thing which prompt them to think about what hidden talent they have, and they get that out.
Right.
So that way people are happy, and they are doing very nice. Women as entrepreneurs in Kashmir, they are doing very nice. As Kurat said, it's really difficult to work in Kashmir, especially the circumstances we are dealing on day-to-day basis. And plus being a human in Kashmir, and when you have that government salary coming to your pocket every month, no matter whether you go to work or not. But being an entrepreneur is a whole different story.
Exactly.
No one is ready to pay you. You have to make it. So it is really difficult task, but I'm really happy that people are doing. Like I'm in touch with during this COVID, I'm in a connection with my exhibitors who all take part in my events. They're doing excellently well. They have found their own ways how to fight with this COVID, and they are doing it. So that is my next program, that I want to highlight their achievements, how they did in the COVID.
Wonderful, yeah. And I wanted to ask you, Asma, what are the kinds of businesses that that you've seen, and what are some of the unusual things that you've seen, which women have come up with?
Kaveri, see, first of all, I don't know if it's in India only, women prefer to go into venture capital gamut only, that where scalability is a question, for example, like, or idea generation is really a question. We don't prefer to go into that sector. We prefer an easy path.
Yeah.
That is the main concern which should be corrected. Because I have seen myself, women who work with me, they have just broken that stereotype things. They are not now hesitant to go to the offbeat areas for their work, because they have to do purchasing, then they have to find out the proper way of connecting to the market. They are doing every step, even they are lifting all those operational work they are doing. I really feel proud at that moment. No doubt I have found that they have family support at that moment, but as Kurat said, where there is will, they are the one who is actually willing it. Then supports, it automatically follows you. But the main thing is that you should have will. So that is there, that they are doing it. Now, as you said, as you asked me whether, I'm sorry, I just got out of the question.
What are some of the unusual things that?
Yeah. Coming to that point, in the beginning when I started, it was just a team of women, 13, I said already, and they were all literally into that boutiques, clothing stuff. That's very common in Kashmir nowadays. But the more I progressed and more I found females doing wonders in art. They're doing very excellent job in calligraphy. They're doing a job in that handicraft things. In our post, we always have few slots left for those, like I don't want to make this platform specific to the urban women. I'm concerned with the village women also. We have a specific slot for them who actually do that artisan sozni ka kaam, ari ka kaam. And last event mein mere kuch women the, they do pure Kashmiri zira, that I found myself first time, and they do packaging, then connecting to the retailers. That is what Posh is, and actually a networking platform. Then they got some people which were not even from India, they were from outside, and they have a good connection right now. So I'm really happy, directly connecting with the village. No one in between.
That's wonderful, isn't it? But Asma, I think the rest of the country has got to understand, has finally understood, thanks to COVID, what Kashmir has been through, since last year. I think finally people understand it. That is when rest of India has good bandwidth, as internet. But they understand finally what the trouble, it is, how difficult it is really to survive on a daily basis. So Sakshi, Nati, can I quickly get you in here on, on how tough it is really? There it is. Sakshi,
this is a mask made from the Madhubani painting, that is from Bihar. And I could not arrange the Kashmir and all masks. They all are sold out, but I have a Banarsi mask. Then this is the mask I have created. I learned this embroidery myself in this pandemic time. And this is a Ari work. It's from a Rajasthan. Some artist has made it. And so
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Asma, I think I have a candidate for coach.
Yeah, right, Kaveri.
So I think you, both of you should definitely connect. But
One
Aarti,
thing,
sorry.
I just want to, Jigyasa said that she quoted a very nice point over here. She said that children do have their own way of recognizing their hidden talent.
Yeah, yeah.
Jigyasa, I have a way, just this idea just came to me. If there will be proper policies and procedures implemented even at school level, we can convert that talent of children tomorrow into a big entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But proper policies and proper procedures, they are required in that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact,
Giving this concept to the students that you have this talent, but you can get employment out of this.
Yeah.
No need to
absolutely.
keep it as just as a passion, just like Kurat said, tomorrow no one will ask that what else do you do,
Yeah, exactly.
to make it as a point of
See, the point is the horizon of like thinking. The people can't think beyond, some fixed things. They
Yeah.
just think, okay, this is medicine, this is engineering, this is something else. But apart from these particular things, they can't think beyond that. So
Right.
something unusual is like, what is that? Does it even exist? So yeah, that more and more people need to jump into all this so that people get to know, yeah, these are the fields that they can explore. So I think people need to explore for, getting more avenues of getting into work. So I think people haven't explored yet. So they're very
Sorry to interrupt, but then for that awareness is very important.
Yeah.
Because
yes,
when
I believe that.
when your focus is, you have a tunnel vision that you have to be a professional, a doctor, an engineer, or an MBA. We have a tunnel vision. So
Yeah.
exploring comes when there is a lot of exposure, right? If there
Yeah.
is no exposure, no awareness, there won't be any exploration, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know
so-
what? Even what I have seen after 10th, we used to have to opt for some particular streams.
Right.
So majority in J&K, I don't know about whole India, but in J&K, people are like running towards either it's medical or non-medical.
Right.
Arts is for those who are dropouts or somebody who is very weak in studies. And nowadays, people are coming up with commerce.
Right.
So these are the limited paths which people are like exposed to. What I have like known since so many years. So even our teachers are not aware about more fields. Even they are not aware about it. So that they can counsel students or they can guide students. Like it's not just these areas where you can go. There are so many other areas also which you can explore. So that is one issue that I feel like in our schools and in our education system, in fact, it is not properly incorporated. So vocational education should be there so that people get to know more ways of,
So I think career, sorry to interrupt you, but career counseling before 10th
Exactly.
standard is very important.
Right.
Yes, that's what
So
I'm
that
saying.
the students, they come to know what are the fields, what
Yes.
are, if at all they're passionate or they are they're good at something, so that they come to know that there is a profession or there is a field that we can just join in, and we can we
And
can be
moreover, what I believe is like students get also be influenced by their parents, their half fulfilled dreams. So I couldn't be engineer, so you get into it. I couldn't be a doctor, why don't you get to it?
yeah, that's one of the very I know
I
that.
think what's very clear from all of you is that we clearly have to have a society where there are more role models for women.
Yes.
Women across all fields, so that
Kaveri, sorry to interrupt. See,
No.
in my case, what surprising thing is like I'm well educated. Like I've done MBA, I've done BA. Okay, so after that, I got into this field of fitness instructor. I did my fitness certifications also after that. Yeah, I have done international certifications, but the point is everybody gets surprised. What's
Right.
wrong with you? Why did you waste your MBA? See, entrepreneurship can be anything. It can be anything. It's just that I pursued my passion. I love fitness. That's why I got into it. So I think people just kill their passion and they just run after money. Okay, मुझे पैसा कमाना है, मुझे पैसा कमाना है. They just forget their dreams. They forget their passion. So they need to stick to their passion and become it a livelihood. So this is what I believe.
Right. Jigyasa, I would bring you in here and ask about some of the students that you deal with, and what are the kinds of dreams that they have in terms of becoming entrepreneurs or working for themselves, or do they all think that, okay, you know, a job is the end goal of our lives?
Yeah, such a beautiful question. And also something Asma was raising earlier.
Yeah.
Like with the kind of economy that we're sliding into,
yes,
and how we're seeing the world evolve, you know, there is gig economy. We need more people who can create jobs.
Exactly.
Or more people who can create a living which has meaning for themselves rather than get into like a job or जैसे कश्मीर में हम कहते हैं ना सरकारी नौकरी. So I think children's dreams change when they get spaces where they can have those conversations. Like you can't dream out of a place of scarcity. You can't dream out of a place where you feel that you have only two options in front of you. And when that space is given to children to have conversations which don't have right or wrong answers. So think about classroom scenarios. Think about how many children are afraid to raise their hands in class because they feel that their answer will be wrong. How about we create spaces where there are no right and wrong answers? Because entrepreneurship is that. It is a space of ambiguity. It is a space where there is no one correct answer. So how do we make our kids confident to first be able to choose spaces where there are no right or wrong answers, and then from that get their dreams evolved? So for children who I have seen have explored their creativity through the arts, I've seen those dreams evolving for them. So they're more comfortable saying, we don't know right now what we want to become. They're more comfortable saying they're exploring.
Yeah.
I would like to say something.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. For what happened a few weeks back, some girl texted me up like, we never took art as a subject in school. We don't do art. We never go for a drawing class. We are like, who will draw and all, right? So you have created a platform through art. Also, we can create a profession. Like for me, when I was in school time, I was confused what subject to do, what to do after 12th. So just like others, I went with my MBA, BCom and all. And after that, I realized that I was not meant for the education only. I had some other dreams too. Right. So job was not meant for me. It's okay. It's good to work, but that is not something giving me happiness. I was always into art and learning something in artistic way. So now what happened with me, like I'm doing my research and doing my research also into artist thing only. And I'm working on artists from J&K in my research. I'm doing my PhD on this only. It's a subject on artists from J&K who are never named anywhere because there are limited research on artists from J&K. As if we see, J&K is the place rich with art and culture. The Kashmiri embroidery is famous all over the world, but still there is less recognition. Right. So with this medium, like I could connect my study, my academic thing with my this passion, and I just pursued with both the things. And I after my this calligraphy thing and my art forms I have introduced, I can see there are everyday new pages coming on Instagram. There are new artists coming up in Instagram, and at my time I did not have any ideal to say if he or she has done, I could too. But like I can see I had created a buzz. Like now people are coming with art ideas. They're learning. They're more into entrepreneurship rather than finding jobs and all.
Yeah, wonderful. So my last question to all of you really is, one change that you'd like to see, which would encourage more women to come forward and start not just creating a life for themselves, but also creating life and work for others. So, Kurat, may I start with you, since you've done perhaps some extraordinary work in making people understand, in making people and women understand the power of speaking up for themselves.
Well, Kaveri, you are asking about the change that I want to bring
Yes,
in. I mean,
yes,
I would want, yeah. So the change would be, you know, how government, you know, sees us, women. You
right,
know, they talk so much about women rights and supporting women's startups and blah blah blah. But Kaveri, this is all on papers.
right,
There's
Yeah.
nothing, no accessibility, no one. If you go to anybody, I mean anybody in the you know, bureaucracy, or you go to the administration, they you know, you may come to know about a scheme or something. I mean, even if there is a scheme, they will make it sure, I mean, they will not, you know, pay attention towards you.
hmm, hmm,
Acha theek hai, ho jayega, you know, that's how it is. But then there should be a special assistance
right,
for women, because you know, I mean, it's so, suppose I'll give you a small example. If I have to meet honorable DC
hmm.
of Srinagar, I'll have to you know, I'll have to make at least 50 rounds,
Oof,
right?
50
So
rounds,
yeah, of course. And then he will meet me,
right,
and I will have to make sure, I'll be standing away. Yes, sir. This is oh, dekh lenge, we'll do it, this and that, and then nothing happens.
right,
So I would want a special cell, you
yeah,
know, a special set of system for women entrepreneurs,
right,
a special support system for women entrepreneurs. I mean, who are educated and who can help others, like women who are not educated. That's what we do. I mean, we give employment to
yeah,
Exactly.
women who
right,
cannot, you know, we are the bridges between the administration
right,
and the lower class. That's what
yeah,
we do.
yeah.
Like in my, you know, I have a database of around 50,000 women right now who
Wow,
are into, embroidery, who are
yeah,
into hand embroidery. I'm very soon going to start a project, because you know, I'm going to do this two things at the same time. Number one is that, you know, these women who are not employed, who do not have work to do,
hmm,
you know, they'll get work, and simultaneously they hand art, which
right,
is dying. I mean,
right,
machines are taking over.
right,
And this hand art, since I have the, you know, I'm working in a particular constituent, in a particular area, so I'm going to, you know, get these women that I've already done, and I am, you know, making a database and this, and you know, a proper list of women who are, you know, suppose number one, X is doing you know, Ari, and Y is doing Tilla, and you know, I have that list. And you know, that's the project I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking for you know, sponsors where we can actually market, you know, their stuff. We can actually use their stuff. We can sell it in Delhi and abroad and whatnot
course,
and whatnot.
all over the world.
Sorry.
You can sell it
All
all
over
over
the
the
world,
world. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So that is what I'm saying. I mean, people like Asma, people like me, people like Jigyasa, people like, we are the connecting, you know, we are the bridges. So
right,
there should be some assistance to us,
right,
so that, you know, we can get many more, you know, many more women, and you know, we can make them the stars.
absolutely.
So you know,
You
that
you are stars in any case. We need more of you.
of
Asma, it's so interesting, you know, what Kurat is talking about, this
Yeah.
database. You also have such a rich database now with all these women who are connected through Posh. So, what is the one thing that you'd like either the government or society to do to encourage more women to come forward?
See, Kaveri, first of all, I absolutely agree with what Kurat said. I
Absolutely.
don't want to repeat the words because words will be same.
Yeah.
I have myself faced all those problems while, and it does not matter in bureaucracy what you have already achieved and have you already proved yourself or not, but still same questions will be asked. So I don't want to go into that because Kurat has very well and nicely highlighted that point.
Right.
That is one of the point. But I request through this platform, because we are all females over here and so many females must be watching us and can watch us through this platform. If a person, if a female is at some position already, she should push another women.
Yeah.
Got it?
Absolutely.
We should pull each other towards the ladder, and that way we can create a better atmosphere
Wonderful.
and we can create. Like, for example, last year in my previous event, Posh is the only platform in Kashmir where international resellers were there.
Okay.
I had an all-female entrepreneurs. They were from Southeast Asia, two were from Turkey, and one was from US. So people came to know that a village, a lady from selling Zira from a village from Anantnag background, she had never dreamed that can she be connected to a US lady.
Yeah.
But she got. So Posh, why I'm giving so much importance to it, because it's a networking platform. People
Right.
get connected to each other. And I think that role models should be created through different platforms as much as we can. That is the main aim of the Posh, which I'm going to start soon. Because as I said earlier, that one gets motivated through the success of others.
Absolutely.
Right? In this platform only, I got 2-3 ideas through Jigyasa and even Aarti.
Yeah.
She emphasized on children education, but to put it in a right word that even could have edit at that moment. But I would like to say that it's not only counseling. Proper curriculum is required at school level.
Exactly.
Proper curriculum is required at college. Even unfortunately, our universities, they are not able to cater what actually world is needed.
Right.
And we have so much in Kashmir. It's a bundle of talent. It's nothing. There is nothing like that we lack in some way.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So we just need to get connected. We just need to get proper networking.
Yeah, that's so well said. Aarti, may I bring you in quickly? Then Sakshi and Jigyasa, you have to end with a poem.
Yeah, sure, Kaveri. My point is, I think more and more awareness about government schemes which are available right now should be encouraged, and there should be awareness programs should be there, because I think those schemes for those it is what it is meant for those people. Those they are not even aware about it. Those women are not even aware about it, that they have so many schemes for them. So I think there should be a proper campaigning for this thing, so that people get to know about what prospects they have, and also it should be made easily accessible. Like somebody had mentioned that we don't get funds right on the right time. That is such an important point. Even I have seen that. If you apply it, you get your funds after so many struggles. You get, I think, maybe after 3 years.
Your business would have ended by then.
Exactly. Maybe the idea was so much into demand at that time, and after 3 years, it just vanishes.
Of course.
So you need funds right on the right time. I understand it takes time for processing, but not this long. So it is so what happens is, these women, those are coming from villages or from lesser backgrounds, so they feel discouraged, and they feel, okay, this is just a waste of time, and why don't I invest my time on my families? So they just get discouraged, and they just leave this idea of getting into entrepreneurship. So this is what I believe, that women government should be more pressurizing more about awareness campaigning. So this is people should know what schemes they have, because there are so many schemes available in banks, government schemes, so many things, but people are not aware.
Sakshi?
So that's the thing.
Yeah, I believe stereotypes have always ruled women from past, but it's a time we can break it. I believe supporting women is the greatest thing we can do. Women standing for a woman. Yeah. Instead of taking a competition edge, or taking someone, if I'm into calligraphy and I'm doing something artistic, I have my own small venture running well, and if someone comes tomorrow and I feel like I was the king of it, why the second person is coming? Instead of taking that negative thought, if I support that person and that person supports my talent, it will give a huge change in the society. If we support each other, if we encourage each other, there will be more growth. We can grow together, we can learn together, and we can excel together. So this is a change I believe we need to bring in society. And if we stand strong together, no one can break us.
Well said. Jigyasa, for you to end now. Jigyasa, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I just did. Sorry. So two quick things. I think we've talked a lot about the systems that we see externally.
Yes.
I also want to talk about some systems that are inside of us.
Right.
What is the self-talk we do to ourselves as women, especially women who come from a comparative place of privilege? How we doubt our own ambitions, how we doubt our own ideas and our paths, and how we want to probably have it all, want to be perfect at home and want to be perfect at work, and fit into this image which was not created by women but men. So those are some internal systems. And externally, like for myself, like I want funders to stop asking me what will happen to Slam Out Loud when I get married, or if I have children ever in my life. I want funders to stop questioning my ambition, to stop questioning me why I'm still in my 20s and our organizational budget is going into crores. Like, I want all of that to change.
That's so well said. Are you going to give us a little poem?
Yes.
Good. So it's all yours. Floor's yours.
So Kaveri, I don't want it to be all mine because I want to share this with you.
Sure.
So we'll do this small activity which has been done across 19 countries by now, because we've kind of spread it all over the place through our partners. And it's a small activity where we write a poem about our emotion. And it's very, very close to me, and I hope you'll enjoy it with me. So we choose an emotion to write about, right? It can be an emotion you're feeling right now, or it can be an emotion you were feeling some other time. And I'll do it with you. So I'll share my poem and you'll create a poem with me.
Okay.
So my first word of the poem is the emotion. And I choose love. So my first line is love is. What emotion do you want to choose, Kaveri?
Kindness.
So your line is kindness is. Now we'll think of a color which brings our emotion alive. So for me, the color is pink. And I'll think of something which is very, very pink. Does anyone in the group want to suggest something which is very pink?
Pink. Rose.
A rose
Pink is rose.
pink?
Yeah.
Different color rose.
Yes. Something from Kashmir.
Tulip.
Lotus, tulip.
Tulips. Yeah. And like when all of us were kids, and when a lot of Kashmiri children are kids, their cheeks are really, really pink.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I think love is as pink as a Kashmiri kid's cheeks.
Oh, so sweet.
This is your turn, Kaveri. So kindness is, can you give me a color?
Red.
So kindness is as red as?
Bliss.
As the color of my heart.
As the color of your heart. The next line is about sounds. So I think about what is the sound that reminds me of love. I grew up in Dharamshala and it rains a lot here.
Yeah.
And I wish I grew up in Kashmir, because every time I've been there, it has rained. And the Dal looks beautiful when it rains.
Yeah.
So I think it sounds like the pitter patter of the rain.
Wow.
Now you need to think, Kaveri, of a sound which reminds you of kindness.
It's the laughter of a little child.
Okay, that's beautiful. And our last line is very simple. We'll use an adjective to describe our emotion. So I'll say love is beautiful, wonderful, magical. So I can say love is beautiful. So love is as pink as a little kid's cheeks in Kashmir. It sounds like the pitter patter of the rain over the Dal. Love is beautiful. Your turn, Kaveri.
Love is kindness. As red as no, kindness is, sorry, I'm obviously not as good as you. What did I say? Kindness is as red as my heart, as my heart. And it's like the laughter of a little child. And then what else do I have to say?
And kindness is one word.
Okay. And kindness is kindness is, can I use two?
Absolutely.
Okay. Kindness is something that will heal all of us. I mean, I want to say something to that effect.
All right. So now you have a poem and I have a poem as well.
Okay. I think that was lovely. I think we'll all try this offline, this exercise. It was really lovely. Thank you all so much. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. And I hope we're able to connect with each other offline as well and remain in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Pawan,
Thank
over
you.
to you. Can we make a quick thank you note and
Absolutely. Thank you
all
so
our
much.
ladies? Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, everybody who joined us today at the panel. I think some really, really interesting conversations have happened. And I think a lot of women out there in Kashmir and Jammu Kashmir and across country will also get inspired with your tales and will try to don the hat of an entrepreneur. And what a lovely way to end the discussion with such a beautiful poem. I'm going to try that with my daughter, perhaps.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I'll take love. Love is easier, so I'll give kindness to her. So and
Thank
we'll make
you.
it. We'll make it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Till
you
then,
so much, all of
it's
you.
goodbye from
Bye-bye.
Different Talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.